Hi, my name is Michael and I'm with Fit Groups USA, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about Tai Chi and yoga and kind of some of the intersections in how we can bring healthy movement to populations. So yoga and Tai Chi share a lot in common, and one of the basic things that the both classes would share in common is the breath. So we'll actually start with a little bit of breath in Tai Chi right now. We'll start by just releasing the hands. So you can give them a good shake, maybe give the shoulders a little shake. And start by just coming down a little bit. So it's kind of like you're going to take a cat and cow and round the back here and then extend forward. So from that seat, engaging the glutes with a tall line, we'll just start to lift the hands and find an inhale. And then find an exhale. So I want you to imagine an oceanic wave. As you inhale, maybe the arms are just floating up, and then the exhale, it's almost like you're pressing things energetically away. We'll just do that a couple times. And this is a very easy way to help people sync with their breath and their body. As we talk about in yoga, finding that union. Inhale and exhale. Take that just one more time. Inhale and exhale, and then you can start to lengthen out the legs and help people shake things back out. And we'll just start with bringing the thumbs together and the palms together. So usually once we find some movement, we let everything kind of center. So this is just a traditional meditation posture, but we use it to find our dantian, or energy center. So we'll find a connection of our breath just in Tai Chi, just like yoga. I find that connection. So I think a lot of times we think about starting the inhale and stopping at the exhale, but it's really like an oceanic wave. So if you picture that oceanic wave, it takes all the time to rise. It doesn't just crash, it slowly starts to flow, and then it just doesn't begin to roll back, but it takes time. So that breath, maybe we can help our students connect and find that exchange between inhale and exhale, that maybe there's a little pause in between. So pressing the hands together, we'll find our lower dantian. This is just a traditional meditation posture. It's about 3 fingers underneath the navel. This is our lower dantian, or energy center. So you can start to breathe into that center and feel that inhale and exhale. And this is a great opportunity maybe to close your eyes and just let yourself embody your body and notice where the shoulders and hips are lining up. And perhaps finding a little bit more length in the waist and the neck. Just take one more breath here. Inhale. Smooth and flowing exhale. And that next energy center will be our mid-dantian. So taking the fingertips about 3 fingers above the navel, just finding that energy center and starting to expand through the belly. And like in yoga, you can think of this as the chakras, or the energy centers, and just expanding and exploring the breath. I'll take just one more breath here. Inhale and exhale. And that third energy center is just right between the brows. So same thing, we line up all 3 of those energy centers, and maybe you can start to find that breath. Inhale and exhale, and then start to connect all 3 energy centers, the lower, the mid, and that third eye center, to turn on all 3 dantians and start to find length in the spine with the knees gently bent. Just breathe. Good, and then you can release and shake it out. So in Tai Chi, we start with finding our Wu Chi stance. So that will just start by, once again, bending the knees. So we'll come down a little bit lower into the legs, pulling the knees gently in, and then starting to find that lift. Inhale and exhale. Now in Tai Chi, everything is circular, so we're keeping just a micro bend of the elbows. It's about 15 degrees as we start to let everything flow through the fingertips. That energy, or chi, moves from the ground into our fingertips. Just do that one more time. So one of the basic movements that we have is finding the horizon line. So once we come down into a lower seat to inhale out of, we'll start to expand. So finding the horizon line, inhale and open up. And then our exhale is just taking all the time, like a sunset, to bring the palms together. So you can think of that just flowing energetically to finding that sunrise and opening. And then slowly finding that sunset. This is a movement you can just do to help people connect with their breath and their body as we press the palms together and press the palms away. And I like to cue people to feel that energetic connection of the inner and outer arm. So it's almost like you're sliding a glass door closed that's maybe a little bit heavy, and then almost like you're pressing it open. You're feeling that connection and that resistance as you bring things together. Good, and we'll bring the hands back together, and then just give everything a chance to settle for a few breaths. Inhale and exhale. Take one more cleansing breath. Inhale. Maybe an open mouth exhale and reset. Good. Next movement we'll take is called Monk takes off its robe. So we'll start by rotating and bringing the left arm over to the right. And it's like you're a block here. So if somebody was coming forward, you would take that block. If the elbow's too high, they can kind of manipulate this space. So you keep that elbow down, and then you would slowly just bring the hand over and down. And then you would find the opposite side. So here's your block. You rotate the hips just a little bit. Your slide, and those Dantian energy centers are still turned on. A little bit faster. Inhale. And I like to cue people to take their time and slow down the breath as one hand falls, the other hand begins to lift. Inhale. And release. Good. You can reach with both hands, taking them across the body. And bringing it down. And then one more time, lengthening. And everything begins to flow with the breath. One more time, let everything integrate. And just find your breath. You can shake it out. In Tai Chi, there's a parable. So I think a lot of times the Western mind gets caught up on trying to learn or figure out choreography or movement instead of just being in the experience. So the parable goes, the Tai Chi student goes to his master and he says, "Master, how long before I become a master?" And the master says, 10 years. And he says, "Well, what if I practice really hard?" And the master says, 12 years. He says, "What if I practice every day? That's all I do." And he says, 16 years. So the more that we try to force something, the more it's staying out of the flow of just letting things happen and being in the experience. So that's maybe something that's helpful to relay to students, to allow themselves to lose themselves in the experience of just finding movement and opening without labeling it wrong or right, and letting the body just move and flow. For this next part, we'll go ahead and have a seat, and we'll find just a little bit of movement in a chair. So I'll go ahead and do that now. As far as choosing the music for a Tai Chi or Yoga Slow Flow practice, what I would recommend is something that doesn't have any words. We don't want people to get caught up mentally on singing along with the song, even though it may be nice to find familiar songs, but something that's just kind of peaceful and soothing to just really help everything kind of give that vibe of everything being slow and present. So we'll work on a couple movements here and explore the difference between Tai Chi and yoga in terms of shapes and alignment in the body. So one of the biggest differences we have is roundness. So in yoga, everything is very angular and tight. There's a lot of tight shapes, but in Tai Chi, or getting more towards a slower flow, there's a lot more roundness. We're keeping this bending of the elbows. And one thing that I thought was kind of funny is in learning Tai Chi is kind of slow motion martial arts. So all these movements that are blocks are all built around protecting the center line of the body. So everything stays energetically aware in the center line of the body. So even as we begin to extend, there's still a pulling in. So if we go back to the movement that we just had of expanding through and finding everything. You can see in yoga, a warrior two might look something like this. But in Tai Chi, you're going to bend the elbows and release a little bit more space and make things a little bit more rounded. So that might be something that is helpful in considering when you think about the movement and how it's very intentional in both practices. Very to find that yoking together of breath and movement. But in Tai Chi, you're focused on finding your energy center and let everything originate and move from the ground. So our next movement that we're going to show here is very simple, and it's just beginning to activate into the hips. So if you're in a chair, this is something you can do by just scooting forward and back into your chair, or if you prefer and it's easier and it's able for your students to get up and off the ground with ease, you can do that on an exercise mat or maybe a wooden floor as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to find a tall spine, and we'll make sure that the hips are slightly away from the chair. And then from here, we're just going to start to energize through the glutes and start to sneak the hips forward. So this helps to feel our connection into the earth. So as we're sneaking that left and right hip forward, we're just moving a little bit further forward in our chair. And this helps to activate the legs, quads, and hips and feel everything move. And then the same thing we would do is just move it back. So you're slowly starting to activate through that left glute and hip and then that right. And you're just finding that move sneaking back. And when I would do these warm-ups with my Tai Chi teacher, we'd go for about 20 minutes sneaking across the floor, and everything would get quite warmed up by that time. So that's a great way to warm up, in addition with the arm movements to help everything get loose and open for our students. I'll just do it one more time, sneaking back, heel, plants down to the ground as we shift, moving our weight all the way in through the hips. So that would be an example of movement that could be done and centered from a chair, and kind of why or intentionality between choosing movement and the difference between Tai Chi and yoga. For this next segment, we'll come back and center on the ground and find some movement that might be a little bit easier to slow down for our students. Our next movement that we're going to be doing is called a Tai Chi Walk. So like yoga, you want to keep everything really long in the spine and the waist, but we find that little bend in the knees, and we actually have a lot more control when we bend our knees around the muscles of the meniscus, whether it's balance or walking. So in our Tai Chi Walk, we're going to begin by stepping that left foot out. We're just rocking the weight forward, and you can find just a little bit of dorsiflexion back towards the face of the toes, and then rock the weight forward. You're sliding the heels together, and then you're stepping the opposite foot out. So basically it's going to go foot in, or foot out, foot in, they reconnect, and then you begin. So as you begin to slide that forward, you'll find connection, and then you'll begin to step and shift the weight forward. So you feel that rock that's happening that helps us connect to the earth, even dragging that back foot a little bit further forward. Rock back, turn the toe in, bring the feet together, and then step the foot. You're turning that toe just a little bit further out, rocking back and turning that toe in. So this is just a basic movement that can be done to help kind of people warm up and feel that connection to the earth. And once they kind of get that connection, it might be helpful to take the hands out of the equation and just feel that little rock forward and back, step, rock forward and back, step. And I think as long as you keep everybody moving and keep it playful, I think it's helpful to just kind of find what's going on in the body at that same time. So that's just a movement that you can do. It's called the Tai Chi Walk, and it's just finding the out, in, as you switch from feet, and you're dragging energetically back through that back foot as you step, and you're dragging energy back, bringing the ground with you. Last movement we'll do is with the hands. So coming back to this energy ball, the lift and the release is happening at the same time. So if you think about Tai Chi in that symbol, what you'll see is that you have the yin inside the yang and the yang inside the yin. So at the same time, we're having that exchange of dark and light, that exchange of heaviness and lightness throughout our movement. So it's very easy to say everything's open and then it closes. So coming back to that dantian, we form that energetic ball. It opens as we inhale, and then as we exhale, it closes. So all this movement happens in our Tai Chi practice. And just like yoga, you can start to find things open and close. So it's more about the transitions in between how we move and how we slow things down than necessarily the ending position. So I'll take you through just a few movements that we might use in our Tai Chi practice. So the first would be stepping out and opening up the arms, rocking the weight forward like our Tai Chi step, and then bringing the hands back together. Our first movement is called ward off. So we're taking the arm out, and then we're slowly bringing the feet and the arms back together. So that's ward off left, it goes right into a ward off right. And then the same thing, the hands and feet come back together. So that is just a movement that you can start to incorporate into that Tai Chi walk where you're stepping forward and back. And again, we don't need to get caught up in every detail of making sure that everyone's doing it perfect, as long as they get the movement, the connection, and the grounding, it all starts to happen. So if you started to put it together, it would look like I'm stepping out, opening, bringing it back together, and then finding that rotation. So once more, I would step out, open, draw it together, and then begin to step and ward off, bring it back together, and then I would step and ward off. Arms begin to open. Here's a movement that would press through and roll back. So same thing, where in yoga you're going to stay in position. In Tai Chi it's a little bit more flowing. So just some simple movements that you can find and incorporate to help people tap a little bit more into that flowing quality of energy rather than pose, 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 which is happening a little bit more in yoga. One of the easiest things to get caught up in as any instructor is trying to figure everything out ourselves. So just like our students, we want to stay engaged in our breath and stay in the movement. So I think the simplicity in Tai Chi is its beauty. So just coming down, bending into the knees and feeling that flow of energy, this is Tai Chi. It doesn't have to go into anything else that's flowery. As long as we can stay slowing it down, it allows people to find space within the pauses. So as that movement happens, we're just finding our breath. And this is the origin of Tai Chi, is just connecting to the earth, inhale and lifting the torso, and exhale and letting those hands release. So we'll take it into a little bit of a flow in a form. This is the Yang style Tai Chi, just to demonstrate and give you an idea of some movement without necessarily needing to replicate it, but just to understand the flowing quality of Tai Chi. Still moving with your breath. And everything is slowly moving, finding that energy connection. A lot of movements begin to repeat themselves, but it's intentional how we're moving, and then just finding that body and breath connection. But we always come back to center and finding that energetic flow. Anything else is extra. And we always end coming back and finding breath and letting everything sink in. Finding that connection with the earth. Finding our inhale and exhale. We usually finish our practice with a simple bow, bringing the hand and fist together, and then just bowing forward, thanking our students and each other for honoring our practices, and that's about it.